How is it going out there, my fellow world patriots? It is indeed Tuesday. I can't believe it already. Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. And I'm super excited, although a little sad, I have to admit that we're missing, we're one team partner down here for our broadcast here. Unfortunately, Patty had some connectivity issues over in Colorado, but we are more than happy to talk with Chris Burres, who is the ESS60 scientist, the mad scientist behind all of the magic that happens there. So I guess we kind of got a little trade-off. You know, we were going to have you and Patty this time, but we only had Patty last time. But hey, we turned into just Chris this time, and maybe next time we'll have both of you guys on. But I'm glad you could join us here today, Chris. But how's everything out with been going out there with you?
Everything's going great. You said it's hard to believe it's Tuesday. I think it's hard to believe it's December 2nd.
Right?
How fast has 2025 gone? It is, I don't know, lightning fast for me. So I'm glad to be here, glad to connect. Sorry I couldn't make it last time, but glad to be here connected with you this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking a little bit, before the show started here, and I had made the remark that this product right here, I absolutely love this product, right? And I already talked to Patty last time about my knee aches. Okay, so I was a catcher my whole life. I did wrestling, and most of my life I was a catcher, though. A lot of squatting, standing up, and my knee makes this weird popping noise. And for a while, it didn't hurt, right? And then when you wake up and you're nearing 50, things feel stiff, and certain times I'll wake up and my hip will feel stiff. And so these here capsules that you're seeing on the screen at the bottom there says you could take 3 of them twice a day. But I got to tell you, Chris, once I take even just 2 of those, I give it about 20 minutes. And I'm telling you, it's not only does it actually feels to me, and this is the best way I can describe it, it feels like there's like a porcelain plate or something above my kneecap as I'm walking downstairs. And if I take another step, it feels like that plate is ready to shatter. Like that's literally what it feels like to me.
Wow.
But 20 minutes later, that phenomenon is out the window, completely out the window. So what's doing that? And I talked to Patty last time, and I tell her from just me taking it, the feel that I get from it is that it's like lubricating your joints or something like that, and perhaps certainly reducing inflammation. But that is your ballpark, so let us know, why am I feeling so much better once I take those?
Well, I can share with you, Mike, we have something in common. I played semi-professional soccer, and for years after I stopped playing, I was having some knee aches. And when I started taking this product on a regular basis, they went away. By the way, this is the perfect time to interject the FDA's disclaimer, right? The FDA has not evaluated our product. It is not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. And I know you'll share some testimonials. I will too. It's probably just better for everyone out there to assume that won't happen for you. If you kind of dig into the research and this is something that you're interested in trying, I know there'll be a link handed out at the end of this. So when you start thinking about, well, what is the molecule, right? Let's start from the very beginning. And Mike, if you covered a lot of this and you need me to skip, just feel free to chime in and let me know.
Sure.
What we're talking about is this ESS60 molecule. And if you're listening, I'm holding up a model of a molecule that looks like a soccer ball. Just imagine a soccer ball where the lines on the soccer ball represent the bonds between the carbon atoms. We have a spherical molecule of 60 carbon atoms. This molecule was discovered in 1985 at Rice University here in Houston. That's where our lab is based. And the 3 scientists who discovered it won the Nobel Prize for the discovery of this ESS60 molecule. For various, and the reason they won the Nobel Prize is because this molecule is more amazing. It performs as well or better than the current best material in almost every application. It makes better inks, better batteries, better tires, better photocells. And this is often where people get nervous because, nobody in your audience woke up this morning, looked out at their car and thought, I wonder what component of my car battery I should be taking on a daily basis.
Right.
And the story actually gets a little worse first. So one of the shapes that occurs 20 times on the exterior of this cage is reminiscent of benzene. Now, benzene is ubiquitous in our society, and it's necessary in our society for modern society. And if you have any doubts about that, just kind of glance around you. Imagine everything that is plastic gone because the foundational molecule is the benzene ring. Now, it's also in the foundational molecule of a lot of medications, a lot of detergents, in terms of medications, including aspirin. So it's absolutely ubiquitous and necessary for modern society. But when benzene is on its own, it is known to be toxic and known to be carcinogenic. And that's where they thought, because there's 20 of those benzene ring type shapes on the exterior of this cage, they thought it would be toxic. They put it in a toxicity study. Instead of it being toxic, the test subjects that they gave it to, in this case, Wistar rats, lived 90% longer than the control group. So that's the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history, and that's peer-reviewed, published research. I'm very proud to share our lab provided the material, and our lab is mentioned in that original study. We are, in fact, the oldest and longest manufacturers and distributors of this material on the planet. So that kind of sets the stage. I could tell some kind of fun stories. I don't know if you covered this with Patty about how we kind of evolved, how this kind of evolved into a health supplement, aside from that particular study, or we can, jump into kind of methods of action. I think you'll know what your audience is more interested in hearing.
Yeah, and you know what? Well, I'll pose that question to the chat. Like any questions and things that you guys want to hear about, I will keep my eye on the chat as we go forward here. But yeah, I'd love to hear that story. And I just find it's amazing because you're right. Like, other products, we'll say like one product out there was, originally a gene dye, right? And then now people take that. And so people think like, oh my God, you make this out of this. But obviously you guys have taken out anything that is, harmful to the body or anything like that, that may have been in there or not. I don't know. Like you said, the toxicity report says no, right?
Yeah, well, I think a good way to look about this, one of the things that's very important to note, despite how spectacular this molecule looks, right? In fact, I've had people call it the perfect molecule, the most beautiful molecule. Despite all of that, it is a naturally occurring molecule. So even if no one in your audience has ever taken our product, they've actually been exposed to this molecule. Let me kind of offer up some evidence. If you take the soot from a candle flame, right, and you would normally do that by taking a cold steel plate, holding it over a candle, and you'll get that deep, dark soot on that steel plate. That deep, dark soot has parts per million or parts per billion of the ESS60 molecule. So it's a naturally occurring molecule. It's just not enough quantities in that candle soot in order to use in a supplement. So we do end up manufacturing it. So I think that's really important. A lot of people, our typical product, the one that you're taking is in a gel cap form. It is this olive oil product, which is just 2 ingredients. It's a high quality extra virgin olive oil with as much of this ESS60 molecule as we can get to dissolve in it. So naturally occurring, easy to take, 1 teaspoon in the morning. And then our most consistent testimonial, right? You've talked about knees. I think we're going to end up talking about migraines, only in the not making any claims about migraines, but only in the context of sharing why we're going to start a migraine study. But these are our most consistent testimonials. People take it in the morning. They report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. Which, by the way, is spectacular, right? Because what is it that you can take in the morning and positively impact sleep at night? I've asked all sorts of health and wellness experts, and nobody says anything. Well, the things they'll share is if you get exercise in the morning, that will help you sleep at night. If you get some exposure to the sunlight and get your circadian rhythm in line with the rising and falling of the sun, that will help you sleep at night. But to take something and then have a positive impact on sleep, not only to think about if you get better sleep, you will have mental, physical, and emotional improvements in your well-being, right? So these are really foundational things that are important, and that's the first place that really, as I kind of stepped into the role of chief scientist, still of a carbon nanomaterial manufacturing business, but now also of a health supplement, that was the first place that was like, yeah, if we're just improving sleep, we are absolutely going to improve the mental, physical, and emotional well-being of our customers.
Yeah, and it's funny too. I don't know if you wanted to mention your guys' appearance on. Well, I'll just bring it up now. You can kind of give us the play-by-play. But I did see your guys' show with Gary Franchi of Next News Network, yeah. And I watched that and I said, oh my God, Patty, the same thing with me, which is And people that have watched me for any length of time would know, unfortunately, I used to, I don't know, 2, 3 times a year, I would even, sorry, I have such a migraine, I have to cancel the show.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, and I'm not even worried about knocking on wood at this point, to be honest with you, because since, and I've been taking, like you just mentioned, as you were showing the capsules, I was actually just taking a teaspoon because I was ready to take one with you, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe Chris already took his dose for today, but
no, I did, but I'll tell you, I've got a little tickle in my throat, and anytime that happens, I just end up taking a shot or two extra. So I'm going to take 5 mils out of this kind of medicine cup, which is 1 teaspoon. So I don't want to leave you, drinking all by yourself.
yes.
I'll join you.
Well, that's actually good because I'm glad you brought that up too, because as it happens, I talked with Patty last time about my son, and she said, well, how old is he? I said, at that time, he was just prior to being 15. He is now 15 in like a month. In about 4 days, it'll be 15 in 1 month. So she had said, he's pretty much on that borderline where he could probably take it. Now, with that in mind, he does have a little bit of a tickle, and he's prone to strep a lot. So, like, what do you recommend for kids? Like, what do you think would be the cutoff line, or that you could?
I'll tell you, I'm a scientist, right? And we're conservative by nature. There is no data to suggest that there would be any problem with somebody who's trying to get pregnant, somebody who's pregnant, somebody who's nursing, or even young children. Despite the fact that there's no data to the contrary, it is always advisable, because this is so new, and it's one of the reasons that we are, coming on your show and sharing this very new molecule with your audience, is that it's just a good idea to not go down that path. I'll share. I don't give it to my kids. My kids are, I have 15-year kids are about the same age. I have 15-year-old boy-girl twins. And really for the last 5 years, if they get that tickle in their throat, they're taking a teaspoon, and they know, like, they're, hey, Dad, I don't feel, oh yeah, I know, I need to take it. So I'm comfortable at 15 and over. Anything under, it is just the prudent scientist nature of me to say, let's wait.
Yeah, I mean, you always will err on the side of caution. Just like, with certain medicines, they say, oh, will expire by January of 2026. Well, they know it will actually last a little bit longer. So that's just my stupid input to it. But going back to the migraine things, I would have them so bad, Chris, that, and the funny thing was, I had to cancel a first date with somebody a long time ago, and they thought I was making it up. So when we actually did go on the first date, she was like, "Oh, I thought you were making it up, just trying to get out of a date." I'm like, well, "I wouldn't have asked you to go out in the first place,"
Yeah,
So, but
that's easier.
Yeah, right. Like, just not ask you. That way, I don't have to make up lies or whatever. But so, I've had that happen, and I've had it, and it's so bad to the point where, like, the only thing I could do in the past was sit in the dark and literally put pressure like above my nose. And to the point where I would actually vomit at times. And so I don't know if that was, certainly didn't feel normal to me. And I am just super happy that all I'm going to say is I've been taking this stuff, the tablets and the olive oil, and for at least a good 6 months. And I would say that the results speak for themselves, where I haven't canceled any shows, put it that way. How's that FDA approved?
So, Mike, you and I are very similar. By the way, I'm sharing this to share with you and your audience why we're doing a migraine study, right? So we are not in the position to make any claims about migraines. This is why we're doing a migraine study. I am the geeky guy that you see in front of you. I actually have a spreadsheet back to 2014 tracking my 4 to 5 migraines per year. And the reason I was tracking them is just like you, Mike, they're horrific. You've got to go to your bedroom, under the covers, lights off, so no light, no sound. It's just brutal. And it's worth keeping a spreadsheet about to try and figure out what's causing them so that you can make them stop, right? So when I started taking this formula on a regular basis in 2018, I didn't get a single migraine for 18 months. Right. So I should have been in the 5, 6, 7 range, 5 conservative, 7 on the high end. And when I finally did get a migraine, it was actually because I joined our sleep study. And part of our sleep study, which, by the way, I'll just pause there. We are doing research. We did a sleep study. We're working on, it's a small cohort, but we're working on getting more people through that study. in that study, we questioned people. Well, I have a slide for that. You want me to, should we pull that up? That's actually,
Yeah, yeah. If you
I
wanna,
have,
you can share the screen if you want. You can send it to me.
yeah,
I can
let's
share the
see. Oh, I
screen.
got to
What?
send a request to you so that I can
Um,
share it.
how about this? We'll just make you a co-host, and then there's no requests needed. There we go. So now you should be good to go as long as I stop sharing, which I am going to do right now. Bing and allow. Kaboom. There we
Okay,
go.
cool. So we'll get to the screen. This is the right screen. Cool. So you can see this. So this is the sleep study. What we're looking at here is the blue bar represents 10 days of survey data before they tried the product. The red bar represents 10 days while they were on the product. Yellow, 10 days when they were back off the product, and then green when they were back on the product, right? This is called a crossover study. We're asking in each column, how would you rate your sleep? Was it easy to fall asleep? How restless were you? And how did you feel the next day? And you can see here in 100% of the participants reported that they had better sleep when they were taking the product, right? So that's a pretty fascinating result.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely.
so when I joined this study, I went off of our product, and that's when I got a migraine after 18 months, right? So that was a little frustrating. Now I'm always transparent. I get 1 or 2 migraines a year, but listen to how these are, and Mike, I know you will appreciate this. For me, my migraines always start. I get a little bit of aura, like my vision gets a little, I don't know, blurry or whatever. And then I get one little sliver of my vision that is called an aura that looks like a kaleidoscope, right? And it
Really?
starts on my peripheral and then ends up in the center of vision. I can actually work through it, right? So imagine that. If you could work through a migraine, you don't have to cancel shows. That's where I'm at. It's hard. I don't know if you've ever thought about this. It's hard to read through a kaleidoscope. So
Yeah.
if I need to read, I can do it, but I just have to and it actually hurts. Like it
Yeah,
hurts
it
my
makes more
brain to
strain.
read. Yeah, there's a lot of strain there. But and then it goes away after about 15 minutes, and that's it. And that's down. Not only is
Wow.
it down from 4 to 5 to 1 to 2, it's also unbelievably manageable compared to like going into bed and getting under the covers, turning off the lights, turning off the sound. And then one kind of overriding theme, because this is back in, I recognized this in 2018, really kind of 2019. And I like to joke, this is the whole story is really the story about how Chris, he wishes he was smarter and started a migraine study sooner, right? So that kind of could have been enough, but it's a one-off. And I'm pretty skeptical. Like even with my own product on the market, because people were clamoring for it, we brought this product to market, and then we're getting these amazing testimonials. And I'm like, if it was you, Mike, I'd be like, Mike, I believe your testimonial, but as a scientist, I don't know what to do with it, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
just still in the skeptical mode. And so finally that has waned. So I wasn't enough to convince myself. Then my wife used to get 9+ migraines per month. Can you
Oh,
imagine?
damn.
Yeah. And I remember the number 9 because she had a medication that she could take only 9 per month. They wouldn't give her any more. She was actually more like 13, and she had to suffer through the other 4.
Wow.
Um, sometimes it's hard to convince your significant other that you know anything, right? And that they should take a supplement. So I finally got her to take the supplement, and she went from that 9+ or really 13 migraines per month down to 1 or 2 a month, or even every other month, right? So this was another story that should have indicated to us that we should, do a migraine study. And then Patty came with her story where she has a caretaker of her mom. Her mom is, I think, 94, and her caretaker at one point, Patty was just like, "Hey, here's a bottle. You should be drinking it. You're taking care of my mom. I want you to be around, right?" And the caretaker went back to Patty and said, "I used to suffer from migraines," which Patty kind of didn't even know, to the point that I would have to go in and get a shot every quarter. So every 3 months, she was getting a shot to help her manage these migraines. She hasn't had a migraine since. Again, this should have been enough for Chris to start a migraine study. Here's the straw that broke the camel's back. I was working with an influencer. We got together. I got her some product. We got together for kind of a second meeting, and she spent the first 30 minutes of that meeting talking about how the product had changed her and her husband's lives, because her husband suffers from migraines so bad that it's basically like, is it a good day or is it a bad day, right? Is it a day you're going to be able to record a podcast? Except that's happening almost every day for them. And then there was no medication and nothing that he could do to help manage it. So she spent 30 minutes telling me the frequency's down, the intensity's down. If he feels, if he starts getting an aura, he can actually take our product, and it helps diminish the impact. That was when we decided to start the migraine study. And then I think you guys spoke, maybe you didn't speak about being on air with Gary, right? And this is a crazy story. So we were talking about these, I'm sharing these stories, Patty's sharing her stories, we're going back and forth. And about 10 minutes in, I noticed Gary, he had an empty bottle, and he told us we had an empty bottle. We just, quickly shot him a bottle. I don't know, there was some mix up. So he didn't have a bottle. But at some point, 10 minutes into the show, you see him like the bottle's upside down and he's like trying to get it out, which, as a businessman, I'm like, this is good for the product, right? These people can clearly see that Gary wants this product.
Yeah.
And at some point, he's licking out of the lip, out of the cap. And then he stops for a while. And then about, 5 minutes later, he starts it again. And Patty suggests, hey, turn the thing upside down. Maybe you can get a little bit more. And at the very end of the podcast, we hadn't finished it. We hadn't wrapped up. And he says, listen, I got to stop. Listen, here's what I wasn't going to say anything, but here's what happened. At the beginning of the podcast, I was starting to get that aura, that indication that I was going to get a migraine. And I was literally thinking, one, am I going to be able to get through this broadcast? Wow. And two, am I going to be able to get through the other broadcasts that I have to do today? And then I kind of took just whatever I could get out of this bottle, and it stopped.
Yep.
Live on the recording. So it wasn't live, it wasn't being broadcast live, but it was on the recording. And I'm sure there are people who went and watched it and were like, oh, they planned this or whatever. No, none of that. Patty and I were totally caught off guard. We got on the phone afterwards. It's like, that was amazing. And so we are working on a migraine study. And now we have your case study, Mike, where, obviously, hopefully that continues. Or if you just end up like me, I think you'd be happy if you're like, hey, if I just get this aura and it's irritating and I can work through it, I'd rather have that than these debilitating migraines that shut me down for an entire day.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because what Chris was talking about, if you guys have ever seen like the best way I can describe it is like an old Western movie, and somebody's going through the desert and they're they're looking for that last drop of water coming out of the canteen. That's what he was doing, like, oh no. And another thing that I took from that, you talked about, and I'll probably butcher this because I'm not the scientist that you are, but you talked about, was it the amount of molecules that are in each bottle? Yep. It was like more than the cells that are in your body or something. Like, I was just like, whoa, like, so could you explain that to the folks? Because that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So that stuff, you took a shot of it. I took a shot of it. One drop of our olive oil product has more than 400 times as many of these ESS60 molecules in it than you have cells in your body. So just one drop. That's how small the molecule is. That's how much we've got concentrated into that one drop. More than 400 times as many molecules as you have cells in your body. It's amazing.
Absolutely crazy. And so we also want to make sure that we highlight the fact that you guys do have a Christmas, I guess it would be a Christmas special, right? The what is it, 40% off of 6-packs of your best two products, as far as I understand it, no?
Yeah, we really kind of had a shift. We want to offer some amazing stuff to your audience, and I'll kind of describe it this way, because a lot of people are like, hey, what should I expect from taking the product? And I like to think of this as kind of a 3-month time frame, right? With, again, remembering that our most consistent testimonial is people take it in the morning, report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. So I like to think of month 1 as focus and energy, right? And we actually have one testimonial. There's a lady, she took her first serving in the morning. That evening, she recorded a video. And in that video, she shared that she didn't finish her cup of coffee. Now, if you're a coffee drinker, you know that's a big deal, right? And I'll share that I used to be a 2 to 3 cup of coffee per day person, right? I'd probably have two in the morning and kind of one towards the afternoon on occasion. I'm now more like a half to a 1 cup of coffee person. It's more about the ritual than it is about needing the energy from the cup of coffee. I'll also add, the data is extremely clear on this. If you replace saturated fats with olive oil, there will be some weight loss implications, right? So that's what we kind of think of in terms of month one. In month two, it's more about sleep. I think this ends up being month two because everybody gets a little bit more or less sleep each night, right? You don't get exactly the same amount of sleep every night.
Yeah.
And so it can be hard to track that some improvements in sleep, maybe some improvements in sleep quality are because of our product that you started taking a while back. So that really starts to land there. I'll share, my business coach describes it this way. He said for 50 years, he needed an alarm clock to wake up. As soon as he started taking this formula, he wakes up before the alarm clock. Now, that's important to note that he's a business coach, right? He's got business mixers, he's got business dinners he's going to. None of that matters. He wakes up before his alarm clock. With one caveat, if he doesn't get the product for 10 days, right? Maybe I haven't dropped it off or whatever. He starts to need the alarm clock, which fits perfectly in the research that suggests that this product is cleared from your body in about 10 days. And then finally on month three, that's where the really mitochondrial impact, right? So we believe we're reducing the negative impact of stress mitochondria. Actually, I have a slide I could show you, but let me wrap this up. And if you're having a positive impact on mitochondria, you actually start to have systemic impacts. In fact, if you're improving mitochondria, you should have what we have, which are head to toe testimonials. So what I kind of share there is my father-in-law was using a cane. He starts taking the product. He's actually able to walk without the cane, and that caused him to walk a lot more. So not because of our product, but because he was walking a lot more, he ended up losing a lot of weight, and that actually made it easier to walk. And so then he ended up losing more weight. And that's the kind of approach that we see. That we think about. And then if you look at the specials, if you scroll down a little bit, hey, maybe you're just interested in trying two. There's a discount for 2 bottles. I think it's like 15%. If you want those 3 bottles to really have that 3-month kind of experience, that's 20% discount. And then so many people love to buy the product, and this is so true. We get testimonials like this all the time, and then maybe give 3 away. Right. And so you keep 3, you give 3 away. That's a 40% discount. We've never really done anything like that before. And what you see on the screen, the buttons on the bottom are for subscription. You can go on subscription and save a little bit more money. I recommend that you do that. Our customer service team has 1,000 5-star reviews on Google. They are not trained to, talk you out of canceling your subscription. They're there to help you. You can cancel at any time. And then that section you're looking at there is our inside-out set, or our starter set. It is our advanced facial serum, which we get amazing testimonials. My wife likes to put it under her skin, under her makeup, and on top of it. Leaves like a nice little sheen, which apparently is a good thing with makeup. Don't ask me. I believe my wife when she tells me things like that. And then it also comes with our 4-ounce bottle, so you can again get the 2, 3, or 6 versions of that.
And we've talked about this in the past too, which is and forgive me, I forgot your age, but I think weren't you like 103 years old or something like that? No, but like I say that joking because you have great skin, and Patty also has really great skin, and I think that kind of goes along with that study about I'm again not a scientist, but I think it kind of goes along with the lifespan study that they did with the was it Weimar rats or
Wistar rats? Yeah,
Wistar rats.
Yeah, I'm 56, very happy and proud to share that. And thank you. I do get compliments regularly, and I do think it's because of this formula. I've been taking it now really since 2017, kind of middle of 2017, on a daily basis. And, I just did an extra shot that happens to be like my 3rd shot for today. Nice. So I'm very comfortable taking more of the product, and believe that it does have an absolute impact. I can share this in terms of like sleep and focus and energy. In 2018, when I really kind of started taking it more consistently, it still wasn't part of my coffee routine, right? And so that really changed everything for me. So what would happen is if I got to the middle afternoon and I felt like I needed a nap or maybe even an extra cup of coffee, remember I was a 2 to 3 cup of coffee a day person, I could always look back and realize that I had not taken the product that morning. So it's really, for me, it was really important. It's now part of my coffee routine. And as part of my coffee routine, you just don't get to the afternoons where, oh, I need a nap or I need an extra cup of coffee.
And it's funny in hindsight. I'm kind of putting two and two together here because as you're mentioning this, it seems like we have a lot in common with the coffees, right? I used to get like a large, French vanilla, and I make it here at home. I got the French vanilla, whatever. And I have this big, I don't know what kind of cup. It's probably like a 32-ounce cup that I usually fill like 3/4 of the way. And I used to drink the whole thing. And sometimes I go back for a second cup, and I'm telling you, Chris, like I'm leaving probably, this is just really coming to my mind as you were just mentioning what you just said. Probably for the last couple of months, I want to say, every time I go and dump, and clean out my cup or whatever, there's always a good 3-4 inches at the bottom. And then we're talking a decent sized cup, probably a 32, ounce thing, because like you said, in the morning, I'm going right over there. And sometimes I'll do it with the coffee. It's like hot, hot, hot. I'm putting the little capsule in my mouth. I'm like, ha, ha. And I'm like, sometimes I'll just do it with the water, right? But it's the same time as I'm doing it with the coffee. But I hadn't even thought about it. Hadn't even come into my head till you mentioned that. And another thing too is, I'll probably mess this up because I mess up most things. What is it? 178 or 172? Two.
So close. You got it the second time. Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is kind of important as we're going into, we kind of coming out of Thanksgiving, going into the rest of the holidays. People think of this as like cold and flu season, and they tend to lean on vitamin C, right? They like, hey, I need to be drinking some orange juice. Maybe I need some of that emergency C stuff, or just make sure I've got some sort of vitamin C, and they're very comfortable taking that as some sort of prophylactic against flu, or even to speed it up as they have it. The study that you're mentioning, there's an ad hoc study out on the web that shows our product to be 172 times more powerful than vitamin C. There's peer-reviewed published research that shows it to be 125 times more powerful than vitamin C. So if you're kind of reaching for that vitamin C, that's why I said I got a little tickle in my throat. I'm happy to take an extra shot because I want to stave that off and be ready for another amazing day tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm definitely going to bring that by my son as well, because like I said, he has a history of kind of getting like strep and stuff like that. And mentioning the facial serum too, like I didn't know how to describe it for Patty, but I like the smell of it as well. But also, it has a really good smell. And I guess she said she worked with I forget what the name of the person is, like a perfume, not a perfume specialist, but a scent specialist maybe, or something like that.
Well, the scent, she really worked with I think it's Brigitte. I can't remember her last name. She's written lots of books, and she's kind of like an herbalist. She can walk through the forest, and you can't take 3 steps without her telling you, you can eat that, or you can drink that, or don't touch that, or whatever. And so Patty went to her and kind of honed in on a really amazing formula, and it includes the scent, which is rosemary, which is supposed to have really good benefits for sleep, right? Being able to elicit good dreams while you're sleeping, and then just get you in a more restful state. So that's what you're smelling. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I didn't want to phrase this in the wrong way because, like I was telling her, and I think you said it was like a nice little sheen, but for me, because it almost like it gives me like a sun-kissed feeling. And a thing I have to say too is with the capsules I took this morning, right, and then the shot that I just took, I don't know if you feel that sometimes, but like almost like a tingly feeling. And of course, it's not a painful feeling, right? Like my knees were killing me earlier or whatever. But like as I'm sitting here talking to you, I have like this, I don't know, like tingly feeling kind of going down my spine a little bit. And it feels good. Yeah. So I don't know, like what is that? Like any ideas?
Yeah.
Like
Well, we do get that. And, there are some people who are a little bit more in tune with themselves. I would love to throw myself in that category. The data is clear. I am not. Just too many situations where I'm like, I don't think that's happening for me. And then they ask three more questions like, that's exactly happening for me. So like, I just turn out not to be that guy who's in touch. But yeah, those people who tend to be more in tune will take their first, little taste, take their first teaspoon and be like, wow, I really feel that. So I think that is. I do have one more slide. I don't know if you want to kind of hop into that,
Sure.
which talks about what we think is going on here. So we'll share this.
Share away.
This is the BOSS theory, right? And so the BOSS stands for buffering oxidative stress system. So we know, first off, like what's the kind of supporting research behind this? We know from peer-reviewed published research that this ESS60 molecule gets into the mitochondria. We also know from way back in the 90s that the molecule can hold up to 6 negatively charged particles on the exterior of the cage. So this is what this looks like, right? So first off, mitochondria, it's the powerhouse of every cell. There's between 50 and 5,000 mitochondria in every cell in your body, except for your blood cells, which have 0, and your brain and neurons, which have 2 million. It is amazing how much energy our nervous system uses relative to our other systems. Like every power source, the mitochondria produces a negative byproduct. You think about your car going down the road, it's got exhaust. You think about a power plant, it's got a smokestack with smoke coming out of it. In the case of mitochondria, you've got reactive oxygen species. So there's the little blue circles here. Those are reactive oxygen species. Natural byproduct of producing energy. Internal to your mitochondria, you have glutathione and melatonin to manage those reactive oxygen species. Those are antioxidants that manage those reactive oxygen species. I like to pause here because melatonin, it's the sleep hormone, right? And remember, our most consistent testimonial includes sleep. So there's nice parallels here. So this upper left in the red is a healthy mitochondria. It's producing the energy, it's producing these reactive oxygen species, and the glutathione and melatonin are managing those reactive oxygen species. I like to picture reactive oxygen species like little bumper cars where everything they run around and smack into, they cause oxidative stress, oxidative damage, kind of like rusting if they're left to their own device. So in this healthy scenario, none of that is happening. When you stress a mitochondria, now, first off, how do you stress a mitochondria? I like to point out, if you're alive in this modern era, everyone listening, right, then you have stressed mitochondria, right? It can be smoke, it can be smog, it can be drinking, it can be the stress of interacting with a loved one or watching the news or an airplane flight or EMF radiation, too much sunburn. If you're alive, you have stressed mitochondria. And that's when it starts producing, you can see these red guys here, more reactive oxygen species than your internal glutathione and melatonin can manage. And that's when they run around like little bumper cars. You can actually see there's a little hole here in the mitochondria. It goes out of the mitochondria and starts damaging the cell. And that's where we believe the ESS60 molecule comes into play. And this ESS60 molecule holds on to 6 of those negatively charged reactive oxygen species. So they can't do any damage. And then when that mitochondria replenishes the glutathione and melatonin. So you see here, it's already the glutathione and melatonin has reacted with those reactive oxygen species. Your mitochondria will then produce more glutathione and melatonin. And when it does, then it can go on and grab those reactive oxygen species off of the ESS60 molecule and manage them properly. And that's why we say the ESS60 molecule is the boss, a buffering oxidative stress system. And kind of the summary is we believe that we are reducing the negative impact of stressed mitochondria. And again, if you reduce the negative impact of stressed mitochondria, you will have what we have, which is head-to-toe testimonials.
Interesting. And so I think it's almost kind of like a magnet for impurities, it seems like. Is that a kind of a way to describe it?
Yeah, well, a lot of people will talk about it in terms of like a detoxing effect. And I think those are very fair things to suggest about the molecule. In this case, I love the concept that it's reducing the negative impact of stressed mitochondria. Mm-hmm. And again, if you're doing that, you're going to have head-to-toe benefits.
Awesome. And I was checking the Rumble, and I'm going to check the YouTube in a minute. We do have a couple of questions, which is very good. And let me just tell you a little funny aside to me. So you had mentioned something earlier, and I was thinking about a commercial that I watched, and the funniest line for me in all of the commercials when they give you the side effects, which are just blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And my favorite one is, and I don't know what they mean by this, which is anyone who is pregnant or may become pregnant is like, wait, what do you mean? Like in the next week, the next month? Do you mean the rest of my life? Like, what are we talking about? So the first question would be any interactions. So it was basically, it was asked, please ask about those with blood pressure problems or senior citizens, with maybe any interactions perhaps with that to be concerned about.
Yeah, so at this point, we don't have any reports of any contraindications with any of our clients, and nothing in the literature suggesting any contraindications. It is always, of course, a good idea to ask your physician, but at this point, we don't have any negative indications. And I'm going to share one other thing. This is kind of neat. In that original study, so some people are like, oh, and they gave the product to the rats, and the rats live 90% longer. In that original study, they didn't give any dosing to the rats until month 10. So they were absolutely completely adult rats before they gave them. It wasn't something that these rats needed to be exposed to in their youth. It was actually well into adulthood that they got their first serving.
Ooh, and actually you just sparked something in my memory as well. Wasn't it the same thing in that study that said it was either severely reduced or none, severely reduced or no cancerous lumps during that study? I'm just going off memory here.
Yeah, so that study, the way it works out is a typical Wistar rat lives about 32 months and has a known amount of tumor mass in its body. The longer it lives, the more tumor mass it has in its body. Yep. Even though the C60 Evo rats lived out to 62 months, none of them had any tumors. Right. And I've told this story before, and people are like, oh, cure for cancer. And I'm like, no. And then I follow that with another no. That is not what we're saying. There is a big difference between dealing with a cancer that has metastasized and being what this implies, which is a cancer preventative, like highly likely to be a cancer preventative. And we know things as simple as good sleep, good nutrition, good exercise can be cancer preventatives. I will share, there's one study that I find absolutely fascinating, which it's a Petri dish study. So this is the lowest level of study, but really cool results. So they have a Petri dish, and inside it they have cancer cells and healthy cells, and they introduce an anti-cancer agent. Now, an anti-cancer agent is a poison, right? You're trying to poison the cancer cells before the healthy cells. So when in the presence of the ESS60 molecule, when they introduce that anti-cancer agent, there's increased efficacy against the cancer cells and protective effects for the healthy cells. So more cancer cells die and less healthy cells die in the presence of the ESS60 molecule. So there's pretty fascinating stuff. At some point there will be cancer research with this molecule.
Very interesting. Yeah, I remembered that. I was like, wait, I thought there was something with the cancerous lump. So that's great. And the other one was ask if there was any interaction around surgery. Like, would you have to stop, say, a week or 2 weeks or whatever, taking this around surgery?
Yeah, I know that Patty shares, and I don't know how much she shared with your audience, but Patty has shared during some surgeries she's continued to take the product. And I know the same thing with my wife. My wife had kind of a local procedure, continued to take it with it. There, in my mind, again, if you're reducing the negative impact of stress mitochondria, you're going to have positive benefits, right? And if anything is true during surgery, you are stressing mitochondria, you're stressing your repair mechanisms, and so yeah, I think that would be fine.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So anything that we didn't touch on that we should touch on? I mean, we talked about how I call it the lubrication. Like I literally, for me, it's just like, well, it's like the Tin Man. That's how my knee feels. It feels like the Tin Man. And at times my hip feels like the Tin Man, and it feels like somebody's oiling up. And, I kind of make that comparison because it's oil, olive oil, and which the olive oil is pretty tasty. So, basically the anti-inflammatory effects that I feel for sure on it. And then we talked about the possible effects with migraines in the skin and antioxidants. Was there anything else that we needed to make sure we got out? And I'm going to check the YouTube chat here just really quick as you're
Yeah.
giving me an answer to
Well,
that.
it's awesome that you're mentioning the Tin Man because my dentist, who's also a friend of mine, mentioned the same thing, right? You know, he's bent over working on patients all day, and he used the kind of same phraseology as like, when I'm taking the product, I just feel like the Tin Man after he's been oiled.
That's it. I'm telling you. And that's it. And historically, like I said in the very beginning of the show, I don't really, I wouldn't bring people on that I don't believe in and the products that I don't believe in. Like we talked about before, like I know, like about this stuff and science and stuff. I know about cars really good. And hey, would you like to show this product where you put these pellets in your gas tank and it gives you better gas mileage? And I'm like, yeah, I know that destroys your car, so sorry, not going to do that. So I only get behind that, and for the last 8 years or so, it's basically been you guys and Noble Gold and Silver, which
Mm.
all great responses. Everybody that's reached out to me, that's emailed me, that's gotten C60 has rave reviews. And if you listen to me, you'd be a heck of a lot richer from 2019 about the silver and gold. But anything else you want to say before we let the folks go? There were no more comments on YouTube. We're still building us up back over there, Chris. I don't know if Patty told you, but somehow and amazingly, 5 years to the day that I got removed from my YouTube, I got my original channel back. So,
Wow.
so yeah, they're still playing their games, and we're trying to, let the folks know that we're out here and we're still doing stuff. So I'm gonna be, putting out a lot more uploads lately or upcoming to YouTube in shorter form, kind of like how I build my bones, right? Because I've been kind of doing more of a live stream fashion, more longer length videos and stuff recently. So gonna kind of get back to my old wheelhouse there, but the floor is yours. If anything else you want to say on the way out of here before we kind of say farewell for the day.
Well, and Mike, I just want to thank you. Really appreciate your confidence in the product. Obviously, from the results that you're getting, we are just like you. We've actually worked with Gary. Was an example where we were about to do the first show with him, and he didn't have the product yet, and we're like, we really don't want to go on air if you haven't tried it. Right? Like we want you to be, have the experience on the product and be able to talk from first person experience about the product. So, we're so much in alignment and really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, brother. And next time we'll get Patty on. I think we're going to be doing something maybe at the end of Christmas, just before Christmas. But again, guys, in the description box below, you will find a link, and use that link, and you will get a nice, I think it's a 10% discount there. And then on the other side, they have the 40% off the 6-pack deals. And this has been, I'm going to call you the mad scientist. Hope you don't mind. But he's so he's so opposite of mad, though. It's such a happy guy. But this has been Chris Burres, the mad scientist of ESS C60 ESS. You got to make sure you make that distinction, right?
Yeah, we think of C60 as for industrial applications, and there's peer-reviewed published research that shows improperly processed, it's harmful. ESS60 is C60 that's been processed for people and pets.
There we go, baby. All right. Thank you so much, Chris. And we will talk again very soon. And thank you guys all for tuning in on this impromptu show. Usually don't do a show on Tuesday nights, but more than happy to jump in with Chris. And we will see you on the next one. So thank you to the mods out there for always helping out as you do. And we do appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in. And until that next video, thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Peace.